Good morning. So the room is only half full, but it's sold out. So we'll have some disturbance of all the latecomers, but since they are from a lot of other schools, they have 15 minutes before we start checking names, who's there and who isn't. No, we're not doing that. It's always great to speak in Antwerp because I live in Antwerp. I'm a local native, but I'm doing this speech in English because we have a mixed audience. So it's always great to speak in your hometown, and it's great to have so many interested people in the room. What we want to do to have you warmed up a bit was give you a keynote that has not too much detailed content on bits and bytes. You'll have that later, but more a warming up and check whether you're interested in IT and how you feel about having IT in your DNA. So on your way here this morning, who already has been thinking about lines of code this morning? Anyone? Only a couple? Okay, that's good, that's good. For all these people, we have a t-shirt afterwards, because that's a good thing if you have already been thinking about code this morning, and you will hear a lot more about coding today. We have in this room a couple of speakers, really big names lined up too. Later this morning, we have Bart de Smet, one of the Belgians that works in Microsoft Corp, and he's going to talk you about the history of C#, for example, and that's going to be a real technical session. So this one to start with, we are in a movie theater, so I want to start from that theme. So you guys, of course, are all a bit younger than me. I'm one of the fans of the movies, The Matrix. Who's a fan of The Matrix too? Who's seen? Ah, that's good. So you all know who these guys are. So is there anyone who still remembers the exact lines of text that was spoken when he saw Nemo in his glasses? Can someone yell what they were saying? Not such big fans. So what he was asking Nemo is about the pills. Which pill are you going to take? Are you going to take the red pill or are you going to take the blue pill? The question I'm going to ask you this morning is the same one. Are you really into IT? And if you are really into IT and you have IT in your DNA, because you guys are just about to leave school or leave school in a year or two, you are the people that are going to take up that new technology, the next waves, make it successful, and see that with those technologies you can make a difference in businesses in the world, and as you'll see, the world runs on technology. So it's about making that choice, and I think you're still in that phase that you can make that choice between taking the red or the blue pill, between having IT in your DNA and not having IT in your DNA. For my IT in my DNA, my first machine was this one, a ZX81 from a brand called Sinclair. And this was one of the very first small, it wasn't even a personal computer yet, but it was a very small compact box. And it came with this. It was released, as you can see, a very long time ago, and it was released 30 years ago. It, back that time money, it costed around €75. It was running BASIC. It didn't have an operating system. And as you can see, it had 1K of memory, and it could be expanded externally, of course, with 64K. And it didn't have a display. You had to connect it to your television screen. It didn't have storage. You had to connect it to your own little tape recorder and put your code onto there. And it weighed 350 grams. It was a great machine. And that was when I was in school, just my last 2 years in school. This was the machine everyone wanted to have because it was one of the first payable and small machines you could use as a student. And it was so great to use Sinclair BASIC in those days. So that's why we invited Bart to talk on C#, because today that's so much hotter. So if you look at the waves of innovation and where my first machine fits in, Funny guy, is just there for making you laugh, but didn't work, obviously. Waves of innovation. We had the mainframe. The mainframe is pretty old. The mainframe was invented to help some business, but largely to help make wars better, because it was invented from the 40s and 50s, and afterwards commercially in the 60s and 70s. The mainframe had this period. We made the evolution to small machines and client server. The web was introduced. Service-oriented architectures entered in the years 2000, and we talk a lot about cloud, and you have a session later this morning also on cloud. So you see that these waves of innovation come, and mostly they are innovation, they are also evolution. There's not a lot in IT that dies. There were people that predicted many years ago, already 20 years ago, that the mainframe was going to die. If you look around in most of our large companies in Belgium, you see that the mainframe is still there. Most of the banks still run quite some of their production stuff on mainframe, not everything, of course, but a lot of things in IT are there to stay and die very slowly and then evolve to the next thing. So we have these constant waves of innovation. And the great thing for you guys in making that choice between the red and the blue pill is you right in the middle of yet a next step in that evolution, a next couple of waves that are coming. And so IT, having those waves, you can live in years that you think like, what's different? It's a bit faster, it's a bit more wireless, it's a bit more this and a bit more that. But currently, there are 2, 3, 4 trends that are so dramatically changing that they will push IT forward and give it a different phase. One of the things which is happening, and you experience that yourself, is that between at home and what you use and do at home, you as a student, your mothers, your fathers, but also CIOs and CEOs, people running companies, at home, they have devices and they use IT, and at work they have devices and use IT. And what you see is that at home and at work starts to become, from an IT perspective, so blurry that the straight borders that we had years ago, when it was at home you have this, at work you have that, that you see that those things are coming together more and more and more. So at home, you see something we call the IT-nization. You have more and more IT at home. People that have their home PC, the home PC becomes more and more a server for your media, and maybe have a real home server at home with a couple of terabytes of legally copied movies and other stuff, especially stuff. And at work, you'll see later that you see a large consumerization. And consumerization means that devices and stuff you have bought at home and use at home, that you take that to work and use at work too. So that's the effect, for example, of the tablets and that kind of the phones, that people start to use the things from outside of work, at work, and really push companies and tell the boss, look, I'm not using the company phone anymore, I'm using my own phone because there's much more functionality. If the company doesn't buy me one of these things I can use as I use them at home, then I use my home phone and I put the company SIM in my phone. So you see a trend to more IT at home, and you see a trend to more consumer-oriented consumerization at work. And those two trends, of course, influence how IT evolves. So IT doesn't evolve in two separate strings anymore, but it evolves in a union where home and at work very often are very close to each other. There are two big trends, there are two big things that drive IT and the IT evolution. The one I tend to call the revolution of fast and cheap. And it's far from, it's very limited to what I've put on. There is many more of these graphs you could put. But what you see is that the technology has been going faster and especially cheaper for the same speed and cheaper for the speed times 10 over and over and over again. So that makes that my 1K memory from my Sinclair, I was so proud about back then, and of course I had the extension of the 64K. I was so proud of again, doesn't mean anything, or that didn't mean anything anymore 3 years later. And it's been going on like that for the last 30 years. So you see that revolution of IT, and at the horizon, I don't see it stopping. So during the break, you can go downstairs, and in the expo room, you see, just from some hardware perspective, you see some fancy hardware, you see some nice tablets, you see some nice slates. But one of the things you really need to go and see on the Microsoft booth is a PC you control with the eyes. So you stand in front of the PC, you look at it, you calibrate it, it will check your eyes, and then the things you look at, it has a system to see what you mean when you want to click, and you can play games without touching it. Look, Mom, without hands. And you can just do it by looking at it, and you control the PC with your eyes. I found it, when I saw it a couple of months back, wow, yes, and immediately you see the possibilities of where you can use it. So technology is driving these changes, and without the technology we wouldn't be able to do at home what we do at home, and we wouldn't be able to do in the office what we do in the office. Second thing is a business change, an evolution of business. And the business models around IT are also changing very fast. And of course we follow the market. And what I mean we follow the market is you see the Ryanair, what I call the Ryanair principle, is selling things at a very cheap price but funding it in a different way. You also find that back more and more in IT. With Ryanair, you fly to a place they call Barcelona. In fact, it's Girona they fly you to. But you pay probably 39 euros return on a Tuesday if you fly very early in the morning and back. And they fund that flight in all different ways. They fund it with the advertising they do on the plane. They fund it with the tombola they do on the plane. They fund it by asking you extra money if you have 2 bags, and they ask you a lot of more money if your bags weigh more than 6 kilograms. So you see that there is a trend for doing things cheaper and fund them in a different way. That is the model, of course, of internet, of offering services on internet that are being funded in a different way, in a different model. So there are 2 fantastic books written about that by a guy called Chris Anderson. Chris Anderson is also the editor-in-chief of a magazine called Wired. And he wrote a book a couple of years back, which is called The Long Tail. And in that book, he explains how companies like Amazon, which are just a bookstore, have been able to change, because of IT, completely change their business model. And completely change from the idea of a bookstore to someone selling books to everybody wherever in the world about whatever subject. And even if there's only 3 books sold of something, they will be able to offer it to you. So if you're looking for that special book about Chinese acupuncture that hurts very bad here and you need these special herbs for it, that book you probably find through Amazon. And if they don't have it, you can put yourself on the list that as soon as they find it secondhand, they will flag you even a year later that they found it and they can sell it to you. That's only possible because of the technology, not only internet, but the technology they've been able to implement. So 2 big trends, the technology one, of course pushing it, but also business that has followed and that's using their technologies and has adapted itself very strongly to those new models. 2 technologies I want to talk to you about this morning, and 2 trends, those 2 new trends that for me pop out and that are the trends you could look at as a student, and where you can, when you make that choice, blue pill, red pill, where you can jump on and make a difference in the next coming years. One is the cloud, and we'll have a session later explaining you a bit more cloud, all those different things, what is it, what is it not. Most of the time, everybody, almost everything we do has a cloud angle or is on that cloud umbrella nowadays. But the decision we've taken, the point of view we've taken from Microsoft, is that cloud is about 2 things. It is about a client and cloud. It's about the cloud that can run stuff for you, but it's about very, very intelligent clients and clients with very specific and special things like recognizing your eyes and being able to control a device with your eyes, but that device will probably be connected to the cloud. So for us, a lot of the things that are happening are not or a client or the cloud, but client plus cloud. So the first piece on cloud is really pushing and driving an industry transformation. And when we looked at the timeline earlier, from those 70s with the mainframe, and I talked about rather an evolution than a revolution, you see that cloud is now one of these evolutions that's really adding an additional layer on top of what's been happening in IT over the last 40 years, and building those extra capabilities and possibilities on top of that. It doesn't replace them most of the time. It will, in the next so many years, complement them, and you'll see a lot of hybrid systems in companies where companies keep or change a bit of what they have and start adding more and more cloud in hybrid environments and hybrid systems. So cloud for us is really a big thing and a big industry transformation. Cloud is not new. Everybody in the room here is using cloud and has been using cloud probably for the last 10 years since you first touched a device or a PC, because your mail on internet is a cloud service, all your social networks are cloud services. Even when you use your phone, you connect to something, that's a cloud service. So a lot of things have been cloud services all the time, or since a long time, but you see that now the industry itself and companies themselves start to use more and more cloud-based services as part of how they offer IT to their users, to their customers, and their company. So cloud, why is it happening? You see that what's changing is that in the old days, and the old days is 5 years back, you only had one device and one type of device. And there was this dream of many devices. So the more futuristic ones aren't done here yet, but you see that what you saw in the House of the Future in Brussels, for example, a kitchen with a kitchen table, which is actually a device, or a device built in a fridge, so you can see what's in the fridge, and or a device in the kitchen that shows you what's your stock, and with that stock you have which dessert you can make tonight. Well, those things aren't a dream anymore, and you'll see them creeping in more and more in the next coming years. If you have all those types of devices and a different way of using them at home, using them in an office, and not having that wall between them anymore, completely blurred, you need also a different kind of backbone, to support it and to run it. And that's where we think that globalization, wherever you are, you travel, you do things, as a result of that, you need a different kind of IT. So what we see is that to be able to power that world of services you consume and devices that are connected to that, you'll see more and more cloud computing coming up and entering in life. And so for us, all definition of cloud computing is delivering IT as a service. Because when you talk cloud, people say like software is dead, and sometimes you hear that expression, which is a bit silly, because actually cloud, of course, is software. So what cloud is deliver IT capabilities to you as a consumer or to you as a company, but deliver IT as a service. And as such, because you deliver the IT as a service to the users, you can free up more resources. Money and budget, so that you can focus again on your business. When we see in companies, disturbing trend we see in companies is that IT has lost some of its power. Used to be in the boardroom, and the IT director or the CIO used to be one of the people, very important people, that was part of the inner circle of the CEO of a company. More and more we see that IT is not necessarily at the decision table anymore, but sometimes it's even back reporting to the CFO. Why? Because IT did too many things just for the technology and not enough to help the business to make the next step. Cloud computing is one of the building blocks that's going to help IT to regain importance in adding to the business. What are we doing to support that? Microsoft is building a large cloud, a large public cloud, which we use for a lot of our services. So we're putting quite a number of these data centers in the world. And if you love IT and if you have made that choice to have IT in your DNA and made the choice to take one of those pills, the red or the blue one, then you love what happens in these data centers. These data centers, and I have a little movie on that, these data centers aren't the traditional data centers anymore where they put racks and put blades in racks and connect everything together. What you see here, this is how actually the fourth generation of data centers look like. They are open space structures. They're not closed anymore. They use the air, they use green power, and what you see, those trucks are container-based IT systems. So, for example, in the data centers we use, or we build, we use containers to fill up the data center. How does that work? The manufacturers of the hardware fill a container with an architecture. In one container, one of these 40-foot containers, contains 2,500 servers. And the containers are delivered to the data center as a container, and the container is plugged in into the system. So it has some cooling, it has some network, it has some electricity, it's connected to the system, it's fired up, and 2,500 servers come online immediately and can be configured in that data center. So it's an amazing way, in a completely different way of looking at IT. And if you have those kind of IT power plants, you can deliver IT at a completely different cost model, but also with completely different, type of services. If you love IT, you can read about this on the internet. If you search for Microsoft in the data centers, you find the movie, but also the explication of how these things are being built. If you want to try this yourself at home, so this is not the session where we say, don't try this at home. So try this at home. Try Cloud Power. One of the couple of things you can use is something called Azure, and you hear more about that later in one of the sessions. Azure is our brand name for the cloud services you can use to build on your applications. So it is an environment that has something called Windows Azure. Windows Azure is the compute and the storage power as a service. SQL Azure is a database, gives you the database as a service. It has something called the Azure App Fabric, which is the middleware we offer you as a service. And of course, the three together allow you to take your C# or whatever, because it is, or Java or PHP or whatever you've been writing, and use the platform, the Azure platform, as a delivery mechanism. So you can just go to the Azure side, and if you want to add it to your own network, you can use the virtual networking functionality and create a hybrid system between your server at home or where you live as a student and get connected to the Azure cloud. So if you want to try it yourself, go to the Azure site, and there are a couple of ways you can subscribe for free and then use the service to test it out. The second big wave next to cloud computing is the changes we see in user experience. And user experience is so much fun. User experience is the different trends we've been seeing from the old non-GUI, from the old character-based interfaces, where I worked with in the beginning of my career, over the graphical user interfaces we find back in Windows. And then we see that there's a whole evolution to touch. We've seen touch creeping in tablets, in phones, and in a lot of other devices, and you'll see more about that in a minute. And that gives you completely different user experience. So user experience changes from desktop and internet and search are now moving from the character-based user interface of a GUI, graphical user interface. Now we move to NUI. natural user interface. And the natural user interface is the interface that will listen to you. You can talk to it. Hello, computer, are you still there? It's always going to be there if you switch it on. And you can touch it, probably, and you can do gestures, and you can control it with the eyes. So it's a natural user interface that gives you these different types of working. And that means that when you program for it, the programs you write will need to have a different structure, will need to have a different look and feel, because the natural user interface is, of course, something different than when you're going to click with your mouse. The evolution you see in these user experience waves is that we don't know yet what the next thing or what the last thing is going to be. It's still very young, and young is it's something from the last 5 years. We don't know where we're going to be in 10 or 15 years. We have ideas. Microsoft has large research and development labs. We have, for example, in Cambridge, we have 150 people in Cambridge. We have thousands of people in labs all over the world working on not just developing products, but thinking about the future, about the next thing. Many things that never find their way in products, some things that find their way in products. And you see that we don't know yet where this is going to go. So if you make that decision to have IT in your DNA, this is a great area to be in and to work with. So we see that the next waves are more about natural user interface in a certain context, working with table computers. We don't have the table computer service here this year, but we'll have one next year because we're going to a new release, and you see a lot of immersive natural user interface. There are some great examples, so these are the ones I talked about, but there are some great examples. And one of the best examples of natural user interface is one you hopefully already know, and I'll show you how it can work when you use phone and Kinect in the same application.
You ready?
So the lesson from this is when two nice ladies stick together, you can't win from them. Now, natural user interface, of course, there's the fun stuff. And the fun stuff is what you see coming back in Xbox, in gaming, with Kinect. A quick check. Kinect. Who's played Kinect already? Not enough. So there are a couple around here downstairs at the conference. Don't miss out on it. So what you see here is not science fiction, it's real. So this is not a mock-up. It actually works. The thing with integrating it with phone works in the labs, isn't commercially available yet. But all the other stuff, playing without the controller, is actually live and you can experience it downstairs. So that's the fun stuff. But of course, we're looking into using these exact same technologies for the serious stuff. And you'll see us introducing these same things we introduced in games. You see us introducing that in other applications. One in Belgium, we have a Microsoft Innovation Center in the south of the country, in Mons, in Belgium. And there we have a company close to the center, which is called Fishing Cactus. And Fishing Cactus is using Xbox and Kinect to build something they call serious gaming. And what it is applications for hospitals and for helping people with disabilities to control and to learn through the movements and use Kinect not for a game. It has a game-like structure, look and feel, but it is for serious stuff in hospital and helping people. One of the things we're looking into, and this is really, really great, we think, for example, that in countries where you have a huge population and a very small amount of doctors, think about Africa and a lot of countries in the East, there are just not enough doctors to help people. So one of the applications we think about is creating a station where people can go to, explain what they have and talk to the system, and where the system will filter out who the people are that have one of the 16 most common diseases you can have, based upon their symptoms, and prescribe them pills. And for all the other cases where it's more difficult to find out what they really have, only send those people to the doctor and do the triage, do the selection by computer. So what I want to show you now is an application of that, not the doctor's stuff, but the setup we have at Microsoft at the reception. And what you see here in the back, so what you'll see is the picture on the right, where a number of people come into a room, which is a reception room, and they will ask for transport to another building. So let's start the movie.
Hi.
The sound isn't too good.
Hi.
So what you see here is what the system detects, what you see there on the right. And you see it's not detecting anything now because there is a guy standing there right in the back. You see him in the mirror. So the system recognizes a new person.
My name is Laura and today I'm here to help the receptionist with shuttle reservations. What's your name?
Dan Bohush?
Are the two of you together?
No.
Okay, let me start with you first. Do you need a shuttle?
Yes.
Which building are you going to?
Building 34?
And this is just for you, right?
Right.
I'm making a shuttle reservation for you for building 34. Let me know if you need anything else. I'll be with you in just a moment.
So have you noticed? It checks the nodding. It knows where the face is going. It checks whether someone watches his phone.
Bye-bye.
The system knows he's watching his phone, so I need to get his attention and starts talking to him.
Yes.
The next person comes up.
Which building are you going to?
Building 9?
And this is just for you, right?
Yes.
I'm making a shuttle reservation for you for building 9. Let me know if you need anything else.
Thanks.
Let's see. I should get the shuttle number for you in a moment. You will be on shuttle 68. It should be here any second.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See, it was even detecting the wear. Was someone casual, wearing a tie? Was he not casual? Was the person doing? Was he nodding his head? You see, it checks. It's not watching the computer. It comes close. You come closer, you watch it. It knows that it has to... are you still watching the shuttle?
All right, great. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See, and out they go. So this is the application of the same stuff you saw with Kinect, the same kind of technologies, and that's where it's being used for serious stuff. So the nice thing about IT is where home and business are coming together, are getting so mixed. This is stuff, this I really love. I've been in IT for 25 years. This is the stuff I really like. This is how IT is going to be back at the most important spots in the companies, helping companies to be successful. Great, great, great application. Again, if you want to try it yourself, you can already do this, almost do this. The Kinect SDK for Windows, which means that you can just take your Kinect, connect it to a Windows computer and start programming for it, is almost available for students, academics, and it's almost available for download. So what is it going to have? It's going to have a highly, highly, highly detailed and performant, what they call skeleton tracking. So it's going to recognize fingers, hands, how people move, and it's going to show you that picture, so you can write your own programs based upon that. It's detecting up to 2 different persons at the same time, so it's going to allow you to write your own stuff like that. It's doing a very, very advanced audio processing, which means that it has these different microphones and space filtering, so that it knows based upon the sound of your voice how far you're from the device, and it does noise cancelling, so you can do a voice recognition in a very easy way. Also, when you're far from the device, even 2-3 meters from the device, and you talk, it's going to pick up the voice, it's going to do the noise cancelling, so you can play a lot with voice. So it has 2 types of cameras in there, so it's going to detect how far which object is away from the machine. So it's really neat. If you want to try it yourself, go to the research website of Microsoft, research.microsoft.com, Kinect SDK, and you can subscribe yourself there so that you get a notification that we're saying it's going to be available in spring. And when I last checked, it was raining, so we probably have to wait to the next couple of weeks of spring, but we're very, very close to the public release of the Kinect SDK, and you can try these things yourself and write your own little programs for free based upon these technology. So if you take the right pill, this is the stuff you can use when you have IT in your DNA. But
hey everybody, my name is
be careful.
Tiller.
It can go wrong.
Microsoft Connect, it's the box. When I saw the cool things everybody was doing with theirs online, I wanted to see if I could take mine to the next level and make my Connect self-aware. So I've gone ahead and augmented the CPU, and just need to turn it on. And yeah, our Connect is now a fully functioning artificial intelligence. It's probably experiencing curiosity about its new surroundings, along with a sense of extreme existential dread. Hey buddy, you want to play ping pong? Now, because I gave it consciousness, the Connect probably views me as a father figure type or some sort of a creator/god. And yeah, it's actually decided I'm a lesser being who must be destroyed. Very cool, very cool. All right, I'm going to switch it off now. And yeah, it's totally locked me out. And disconnecting its power source seems to have only enraged it further. Now, because I'm connected to the internet through Xbox Live, the Connect will be able to access the world's collected computer networks, which it is doing now. It's a truly astonishing device. Now, I planned on smashing the Connect with this baseball bat, and it appears to have fashioned some sort of crude handgun from spare components, which is now waving at me in a very threatening manner. I'm fairly dubious that such a device could even function. Okay, cool, it definitely works. Now, considering the Connect's impending omnipotence, one can only hope that it will show mercy. Never mind, it's going directly for our government's nuclear arsenal. I'm hoping that the government's firewall will be able to stall. Nope. I was gonna, in future versions of this hack, add in a morality, or maybe teach it about the sanctity of human life, but I guess it's too late for all that now. What is this? Oh, perfect. As a final act of retribution, the Connect is now uploading embarrassing pictures of me playing Dance Central to various social media outlets. Fascinating. Well, thanks for watching. You can get the tutorial for this on my blog, and be sure to subscribe to my channel.
So be careful. It can be very, very dangerous too. So don't try this at home, but try the normal stuff. So the possibilities are endless. And if we go back to the Matrix, Niobe said, I remember, Captain, you used to dance, and I remember you were pretty good. And then Morpheus said, there are some things, Niobe, that will never change. So what will never change is that there will always be people that have IT in their DNA, and I guess this room is full of them. Looking at what you can do next, Microsoft has a number of programs. Microsoft has a number of programs where we can help students and where we can give you additional information. One of the things we're looking for is students as yourself that's going to be in the last year, next year, or still are a couple of years away from graduating and want to become what we call a Microsoft student partner. If you're interested in that, and if you're interested in technology and working with us and being one of our ambassadors, out there in schools and in the ecosystem in Belgium, go to our website or send me a mail directly, or my colleague that's taking care of the academic relationships, which is Jan Potemans. But write a mail directly to me, Luc van der Velde, at Microsoft.com. So that was it for me. I wanted to give you a quick and brief introduction and to check where you are with having IT in your DNA. And I hope I helped you making a bit your choice in taking which pill. And I shall ask you the question again. Who in the room thinks he has IT in his DNA? You know what? We have a t-shirt for all of you. Thank you very much for listening. You are a great audience. You're the best in Antwerp, always. Thank you very much.